This is the best moments of the Barbecue Central show in 10 minutes or less. Ever wish you could re-listen to your favorite interview or segment? Do you enjoy hearing older shows for the first time in years? Then the best moments of the Barbecue Central show in 10 minutes or less is just what you need. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show.
That's right. Thank you so much for listening. I'm your host, John Solberg, and today's edition is being brought to you by The Butcher Shop, purveyors of highly sought-after 100% Australian non-crossbred Wylara 9 Plus briskets, and as always, they're going to be handpicked just for you. The Butcher Shop has been retailing the finest meats for the past 15 years. Every week, they are shipping out competition-quality meats to many of the biggest names in the competition scene across the nation. Simply put, teams who use The Butcher Shop win, and they win often. So you're not a competitor, but you still have an eye for the finer cuts in life? Great news! The Butcher Shop is shipping some of the finest prime, dry-aged, Australian Wagyu and Japanese Wagyu steaks to people just like you and me who aspire to be the kings and queens of their cul-de-sacs. The Butcher Shop always has Berkshire, Compart Duroc, Allegiance Duroc, and Prairie Fresh all-natural pork in stock, and again, it's always handpicked just for you. Now, you might be saying, John, all this sounds great, but what about some exotic stuff? Well, rest easy knowing the Butcher Shop can get your next elk steak or camel roast. They're going to ship it out promptly. Yes, they can ship you camel. So let's review. The best competition briskets, check. The best pork selection, check. Giving you a better overall option to cook at home, check. So give the Butcher Shop a call today, 850-458-8782. That's 850-458-8782. Mention the Barbecue Central show for 10% off your entire order each and every time. You can also reach out to them on Facebook, facebook.com/The Butcher Shop. Shop is spelled S-H-O-P-P-E. The Butcher Shop, home of the 100% Australian non-crossbred Wylara 9 Plus briskets. And here's what's going on in today's show. Greg catches up with the legendary pitmaster of Lotta Bull, Mike Davis.
Chicken in specifically, did you think it was, top 3 chicken out of 59 teams?
I did. I actually did. We know when our chicken is on, and it was on this weekend. There was no doubt about it.
So
my official taster had already given me the thumbs up that it was good before she took off with it. So.
Now, let me ask you a question here, Mike. It almost seems without fail when I talk to pit masters out there on the competition circuit, and now that I've been doing the show for almost 3 years live, I've talked to a number of them, whether it be on the air or off the air through email or whatever. And chicken always seems to be a category that is mystifying. It's an enigma. It's something that you do really well at 4, 5, 6 weeks in a row, and then all of a sudden it'll start to fall off for some unknown reason. Do you guys still have issues with chicken here or there? Has it always been a fairly consistent category for you? How is it for Team Lotta Bull?
Well, for chicken for us has always been fairly consistent. We kind of got off track, and that wasn't the chicken's fault. That was because we got off track. Debbie tells me, just leave it alone, it'll come back, and it always does. But, I get a little antsy every once in a while. It doesn't hit top 10, man. I'm ready. I want to try something different. But she calms me back down. She says, no, you can't do that. You got to stay with it. What have you been preaching all these years, And chicken usually sets the tone for us. If we do well in chicken, we usually do well in the contest. If we don't do well in chicken, then we don't do well the rest of this contest.
All right, so as you track your scores over the course of, let's say, a month or 6 weeks, and you start to see a steady progression of a category starting to fall off from where you would deem it to be successful otherwise, when do you start to make changes, and how do you make changes? Are they very minimal? Will you start to make less than wholesale changes, or will you just change the boat altogether?
No, it's less than wholesale changes when you make something. It's got to be very minimal. You have to go back. I have to go back a couple of years when something falls off. It's usually something that I've done that I've changed in the course of the process of how we do it or what we use. It's either more of a product or less of a product. And if I think back, and I just get right back to the basics, and it all falls back in place again. It's really so simple that it's almost silly.
Mike Davis joining us here on the show, pitmaster from Lotta Bull BBQ, talking about the competition that he won grand champion in Greenwood, South Carolina. By the way, that's the South Carolina Festival of Discovery. Ribs is the category next. So you placed third in chicken, so you got to be feeling pretty good about that. Ribs is the next category up, and not as high, but it's a top 10 call, so you've walked the stage now twice. How did the ribs turn in for you?
Well, the ribs, I thought when he called the ninth place, I'm always happy to get a top 10 call regardless, but I kind of looked at David and I said, they're better than that. And, of course, I marched right on up there and got that ninth place. So we thought they were better than that, and there was obviously some excellent ribs turned in along with it. So we'll take the ninth and go on.
So we're looking at it, and it really did shape up to be kind of a very nice, interesting contest between you and you, Debbie, and Mike and Beth. QOW finished first in chicken, and then in ribs, they were 15. So you didn't see them get called. You get called twice right off the bat. When they won chicken and you didn't see them get called, a little relief. Do you not really think about that when different teams are getting called up?
Yeah, we actually kind of tracked just a few people and who's got what. We knew he had the first, we had a third, we got a ninth, and he didn't get a call. So we're kind of feeling pretty good about that. At the time the rib category was over.
All right, so a third place call, a ninth place call. We move on to pork. You finish fourth there. However, Mike finishes, QOW finishes third place, so just one spot above you. So we're starting to get kind of hotly contested because nobody knows where Mike finished overall in the ribs portion at that point because they're only calling top 10.
Exactly.
How did you feel about your pork turn-in?
Well, I knew at that third and fourth place call in the pork that we were probably about even back up again. And I knew at that point it was probably going to come back down to the brisket.
And it seems like it all.
I knew.
Go ahead.
I knew his ribs couldn't have been very far out. I had him when he doesn't get a call. I always count him at 11.
Always a safe bet, right?
10, I count him at 11. Yeah.
Now, it always seems like it's some of the best competitions during the course of the year. Everything's going to be coming down to the brisket category. Last category, always kind of deemed one of the tougher individual categories to cook all the time. And you hear Mike get called in the sixth place, and then you have to wait kind of those 4 or 5 extra spots before you hear who's winning. So as you're building towards the winner of that category, how did you feel about your turn-in initially when you sent it, and then when you haven't heard your name in 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd place, do you start getting a little antsy?
Always good to get some pro tips from a pro. Doesn't matter when it was, a lot of it's still relevant. You need to get the rest of this interview. Head over to thebbqcentralshow.com. It's going to be right on the homepage for you right now. Simply search Mike Davis in the search box. Head over to the best of archives. They'll all be listed for you there. You can also get the show wherever you get your favorite podcast. Simply search The BBQ Central Show and subscribe. You're never going to miss an episode of this show or the really big Barbecue Central Show again. And until next time on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less, I'm your host, John Solberg. I look forward to talking to you again soon.